Good evening to one and all present in this online conclave. As we have witnessed for the past 6 days, this conclave is about imparting and sharing our intellect and wisdom on the ethics of research writing. And every speakers and the participants have justified the objective in diplomatic and aesthetic manner. Our speaker of this evening is Dr. Supravat Siripatanakur. Dr. He is a supervisor and the lecturer at the University of Geomatica in Malaysia. He is also a researcher at Manipal Global Next University. Apart from that, he is also a adjunct professor and the researcher at University in Malaysia. Our professor has a long list of titles to his credentials. He has completed his Doctor of Dental Surgery degree from Chiang Mai University and also graded with the bachelor degrees from Sukhothai Thammasat Open University, including B.Ed Measurement and Evaluation, BPH Public Health Administration, B.Art Information and Technology, B.Art Thai Studies, B.Art Animal Production and Management, certified in English for specific career. He holds two Master of Science, one in Oral Medicine from Mahdo University and another in Management from Assumption University, Thailand. He also has a Doctor of Philosophy in Education Administration from Sukhothai Thammasat Open University since 2001. Sir, we are very much honored to have a esteemed professor such as you among us in this evening. We are eager to listen to your educational serum in this meeting. Invite you to take over the session.
Is my PPT visible to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's nice. So a very warm good evening. Everybody can hear me and can see my PPT right now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Am I audible properly?
You are audible.
Okay, thank you so
Yes, you're
much.
audible.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, a very warm good evening to all of you present over here. And as we left somewhere because of weather conditions that day, so I was about to communicate with you about the art of writing a research paper in law. So first of all, if we try to understand what is a research paper, and in common understanding, if we would like to focus on it, it is basically a paper which is written after research. All right. So recently, before my lecture, and I was listening yesterday also, there were very good speakers talking about research. So I will not go in detail of that. I will definitely be focusing only on how to write a research paper in law. And what I feel that whenever we write a research paper in law, it is somewhat like making a movie. There are certain things that we must keep in mind while writing a research paper in law. That is, the first thing is choosing an interesting topic. Interesting in the sense that the targeted audience, by very reading of the topic, should develop interest in the paper. And second thing is, we should do some background research with respect to it. The quality of background research and to what extent this research is required to be done, that varies from paper to paper and from stream to stream. Okay. Then we should try to produce our research paper bit by bit. That means whatever we are writing, right starting from your introduction to the main part of your research paper, right up to your outcomes, it should be interlinked to each other. There should be some kind of continuity. It should not look like as if you are writing something in abstract. And the last point in this is fascinating the audience with something spectacular. That means when the audience goes through your abstract, or the audience goes through your targeted population, I mean to say, the audience should feel the desire, the craving to read the entire paper. All right. Now, switching to the next slide. Is the slide visible? I'm just checking. Is the slide visible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am, it's
ma'am.
visible.
Okay. All right. All right. Now, the very question that arises in our mind is, what are the good attributes of a good research paper? What are the qualities that should be present in a research paper so that it should be published? It should be considered worth reading by the targeted population. The very first thing is, it should be very much systematized. It should be written in the manner as demanded by the publishing house, as well as doing justification to the stream in which you are writing. Second thing is, it should be logical. Logical, I'm writing specifically in reference to law, because here the research papers are not objective. They are purely subjective because they are based upon theoretical framework, the societal issues which are happening around, and how the law in different countries is regulating it. So it is always logical. Law is not based upon morals. Morals can play a role while framing the laws, as it is a part of literature. So it can play a part in usages and customs, which in turn becomes law. But once a law has been made, the paper, if you're writing and you are talking about law and case studies, it needs to be logical, supported by facts and arguments. And the last point in this is, it should be result oriented. There should be some kind of outcome of it. Every time it is not important that you have to have a data to analyze it and then give the findings. There can be conclusions and suggestions depending upon the kind of study you are carrying out. So these three attributes always are advantageous as far as a good research paper is concerned in law. And the last point in this, but not the least, you should avoid all kind of distractions related to it. See, when we decide to write a research paper, it is just like a brainchild. I'm saying it is a brainchild. Your research paper will be genuine. Your research paper will be less linked with red mark. It will not be plagiarized. Only when it is your brainchild that your idea is genuine. Okay, and then you should start writing about it in a very cohesive manner. So what is the technique to write a cohesive paper and how the idea is developed, I will explain in further slides. The next point in this is, we must understand that ideas become scholarly articles. This is a human brain. It works like this. Whenever we are doing our day-to-day activities, and if we are a law student, we observe so many things around us, so many societal issues. Some we observe, some we listen to, some we read in papers or in books. And when we do extensive reading, that leads to working of a brain, and it starts developing ideas in the sense that why, what, where, how. And these ideas, when developed in your mind regarding something, no matter you have done literature review and you are very much impressed by somebody's literature review regarding the same topic, but you have to have your independent idea. And your independent idea will only and solely depends upon your thinking process. And to think, you need to read. We need to read as much as you can. So the very first thing to develop the idea in mind is to have a very balanced kind of approach. You should not be biased with somebody's point. Because in law, from the very beginning, even when the cases are decided from the very beginning, we cannot be biased because we have this doctrine of audi alteram partem. Both the sides must be heard. There should be a very balanced approach. After hearing both the sides, it depends upon you on the evidence what you want to support, right? So in the same way, when you develop an idea after extensive literature review, after reading, please make it a habit to write those ideas. Be it your book, be it your mobile where you are writing something, be it your computer where you are making a folder and you're writing in some MS Word something, but try to write those ideas when a particular situation starts circulating inside your mind, so that these ideas can somewhere act as a data or a kind of graph when you try to approach those ideas, when you want to approach those ideas in the sense of writing a research paper. Okay, so switching to the next slide now. There are some certain pre-writing tips which you must follow before even you think of writing a research paper. And they play a very important role in legal research paper writing. The very first tip in this is to do the literature review. You should do extensive kind of research, literature review when you are thinking of writing a research paper. Something is striking your mind. And second question is why we say that we should do literature review. The most important thing associated with it is sometimes what happens when we have a question or a query inside our mind, we are thinking about writing a paper and we start reading about it online as well as offline. Not only we get material on that particular issue which has been done by somebody else, because it is not your material, you have written nothing, you have contributed nothing in it, it is somebody else's material. But sometimes you also come to know about other kind of problems related to that particular issue. So in a sense, when you do extensive literature review, you increase the scope of the issue which you are going to take in your research paper for further legal studies. And second thing is, sometimes what happens, we come across some kind of study related to our issue being done in some other country, which gives us a complete picture of how we have to proceed with our research paper writing. So this is the advantages of doing literature review. Next slide goes with, this is basically for the people from law background. Please don't be so much dependent and absorbed by the Google. See, when we talk about law and when the cases are being solved in courts also, there is a very important thing we do in the court, that is we draft. We do the drafting and then the cases are pleaded online. And drafting requires your own skills. Google can be helpful in legal research paper writing only to the extent to know about the updates, what is current happening in this particular situation. But when we have to check the theoretical backgrounds of something, when we have to go to the legal notions, the philosophy, the jurisprudence behind a particular issue, a particular law, the political thought behind it, how it originated, we cannot rely upon Google because we are not sure about whether we are taking this material is from authenticated sources or not. Just because it has been republished in some book or in some journal, we cannot rely upon the authenticity of it. It is always considered to be the primary source, data source, as far as legal studies is concerned. So too much dependence upon Google and just collecting the material, making it a repository, depending upon the Google and writing your paper is not going to do justification as far as your legal research paper is concerned, because we have journals, we have case reports, we have case comments, and these are primary materials. I'll tell you about the different primary sources of data collection in law, and from there you will have an idea that cannot be done from Google, right? The next important thing is, whenever you are going to write a paper, you are writing the ideas and you also make it a habit to outline it. Whatever you are collecting, make it a habit to outline it. Maximum people think that whatever they are outlining is simply wastage of time. But in practical application, when you will do the second read up or the third read up before writing the paper, these outlinings will help you to frame the complete structure of your paper, because you have corrected them randomly, and whenever something popped up, you read somewhere, you listened somewhere related to the issue which is circulating in your mind on which you want to write something. So these outlinings always play a very important role in writing your paper, how you have to approach it and what exactly you want to write in it, right? The next point is, as we are discussing earlier also, you must do extensive legal research. You cannot just go by 3-4 papers or 5-6 papers. You are not in a position to write a law paper, because there are so many things involved in it. First of all, whenever you are doing an extensive legal research, you should also be very much clear about the point that if you are going to write some case laws in your paper, or if you are going to do a case study related to some particular case that happened, which was decided by the Supreme Court or the High Court, or as the case may be, and you are trying to support that case inside your research paper with the help of other cases being decided by Supreme Court and High Court on the same kind of cause of action, you should try to put those cases which are recent. Why we are saying to put recent rulings? See, if you are quoting down a case which was decided in 1955, law is basically meant for society. The case popped up in 1955, decided by the courts in 1955, according to the societal demands. The time frame of deciding a case also matters a lot, and it was for the welfare of the society present at that time. But if you try to imbibe that case and you want to quote down that case in 2021 and 22, the decision given in 1955, may be possible that what was relevant at that time is not relevant at the moment. For example, child marriage was not an offense earlier, but today it is considered to be illegal. There is imprisonment for it. So in this way, whenever you are writing a case, you should always try to put the recent judgments. Now I'm just giving a brief because I was listening yesterday also. So this is a brief about the various kinds of research papers written in different streams. And I will be highlighting which papers are written in legal framework. The first one is the analytical paper. Second is the definition paper. Third is compare and contrast papers. Fourth is survey or empirical research paper. Fifth is your experimental research paper. Then you have the interpretative papers or the case studies. And the last one is the argumentative paper. So the very first paper which we are talking about right now is the analytical paper. As the term by itself is explaining, analytical papers are basically the analysis. I'm not saying critical analysis, that is something else, comparative or critical. I'm talking about how you are analyzing something. You have read about it and how you are going to analyze it in your paper. So in this paper, what happens? Basically, the researcher tries to pose a question, any question he's having. As we know, let me just give a brief about it. Whenever we plan to write a research paper, we should have a universe of study. Then we goes to the your statement of problem or the research question. And depending upon, we should have a hypothesis for it. And same is applicable to your research paper also. And then we set up our objectives, how we are going to prove our hypothesis by doing justice to your research problem. And then we go with the research methodology process and we go with the method of data collection and how we are going to analyze it. This is what happens actually. So whenever there is a question on which you are writing a research paper and it is analytical style, then you collect the material on it. And that material is not yours. You collect the material of the different researchers who have done research on it. And you try to analyze their viewpoint inside your paper, especially stressing upon what are their findings and what were their conclusion. You write about, you're not biased and you analyze it, you just write it in continuity on a particular issue. What are the researchers saying? What was the researcher's finding? And what was the researcher's conclusion? And finally, after analyzing everything, you drop your conclusion. That conclusion can be your own personal opinion about it. That conclusion can also be biased. You are trying to support one of the researchers from them, or more than one, or you can also go with that you are supporting, but you would like to add something in it, right? So this is called as analytical paper when you analyze it. Second is the definition paper or the descriptive paper. As the word is by itself is explaining. Here we basically deals with the facts and the objectives. For example, a new act has been passed, and now you want to write a paper on this act. There are so many sections in it. It is talking about so many rights. It is talking about different kind of compositions. It is talking about different kinds of powers will be given like that. So in these kind of papers, the very first thing that the researcher does, the person who is writing, he tries to write what exactly the particular act is saying. You just describe it without giving your personal opinion. So they are basically analyzed papers where you are these are kind of informative paper in which you explain a particular situation that is happening, be it a law or be it a case study, right? Next is your compare and contrast papers. As the word by itself is explaining, here we try to, it basically takes place in your linguistics literature, where you try to pick up a situation, and here you take two kind of authors related to it, and you compare what they have said about this particular thing. But when you're writing this kind of paper, you should be very much unbiased. You cannot be biased. There is no paper from any of this category where you will start as a biased or influenced by somebody's study. You have to have an unbiased approach, and that can be attained only when you do extensive literature review, so that you can get material against it also. So here you will do analysis or comparison and contrast of two researchers who have contributed on the same thing. And then after writing an unbiased paper, you will support any one of them with your argument behind it, why you are supporting any one of them, right? Then we have the survey or the empirical research papers. This is the one which is carried out in social sciences to a great extent in different fields. Here, the paper is purely based upon the data which you collect, be it a questionnaire, be it a interview technique. The data is being collected, it is being analyzed by applying the statistical tools, and then you just present your paper as the data, depending upon the data and the analysis, right? Switching over to the next slide, we have the experimental research paper. These papers are basically the part of sciences. Here they set up the next experiment and they collect the data at regular intervals to see the existence of a particular kind of phenomena. And depending upon the data being collected, they try to prove their hypothesis and they present the same in their paper, right? The next one are the interpretative papers. This is a part of your law. This is also called as case studies. Here, basically, we do the literal interpretations. There are two kinds of interpretations done in law, liberal and interpretation, and literal. Literal means word to word, what the law is saying about it. Here, the researcher does in-depth case study. Whatever case law he is taking, for example, suppose the present time is of merger and acquisition and takeover of companies. And there are certain cases that went to the Supreme Court related to takeover. A lot of hue and cry among the people, especially the people who are working in the company, that the money that has been refunded to us, or we have been retrenched from the company, and so many HR issues, human resource issues are involved. And you read it about it in the paper. You read about it, you heard it in the news. Now you want to write about merger and acquisitions. And you want to take some case study for it, some recent merger that has taken place between two companies. So when this kind of case study you do, you are literal, because here you will write the rules, regulations, and the orders that has actually taken place. The facts are also literal, what has actually happened. And you will go do an in-depth case study, establishing the theoretical framework, what law has been applied, the workers are regulated under which sections, what the section is actually saying. You cannot add anything from your side to it when you are interpreting a particular kind of case study. And after doing that, you you will give a conclusion also. Your conclusion can also be supported by if you want to put some kind of suggestions in it, that this could have been done or that could have been done, right? And the last one is the argumentative papers. Argumentative papers are basically, as the name itself is suggesting, these are critical papers, critical analysis. Argumentative papers are those in which you pick up a controversial issue and you write about both the sides of it. You don't need to have two researcher for it or more than one, but you write both the sides. It is your writing that matters in this paper. You will take a situation and you will write about the pros and the cons of the particular argument or a situation that you have taken for the study. And you will also give the arguments and the facts in support of that for and against movement. And thereafter, at last, you can support one of them. You will support one of them and you will give justification for that also, that why you are supporting that particular argument. Okay. I hope you are getting some clarity of thoughts when I am speaking it. All right. The next slide is a very simple one. Maximum of you know about it, but I will still put an effort to make it clear. This is the pattern being followed by maximum journals at the moment, be it national or international. That is, what will be the guidelines for research paper writing. The very first one is it should be MS Word. Then paper setting should be at least 1 inch, all sides, top, bottom, left, right. Then you have, it should be in Times Roman New, or it can be in Calibri also. Font size is 12 and space line is 1.5. Between the lines also within the paragraph and between the paragraphs also. And the minimum number of pages which are demanded is 10 is the minimum. Now the next slide goes with, what are the contents of a legal research paper? So this is the body of the legal research paper when we write it, and these should be present systematically in this manner only. The very first one is the title, then is the author's affiliation, abstract, keywords supporting the abstract, then the introductory part. Then we have the statement of problem, review of the literature, methodology, be it doctrinal or empirical, whatever you are using, primary, secondary data sources. Then we have the result and discussions when it is a data and analyzed, that is the empirical research. And if it is the findings and conclusion and suggestions, that goes with basically the doctrinal one. And then we have the references, footnotes. This is something I will explain in next slide, that differentiates a legal research paper from other kind of social sciences paper. And the author's biography. There are, especially in case of the international journals, author biography plays a very important role. Here you write about your affiliation and what you are doing at the moment. So these are the next slide goes with the various sources of a legal research paper writing. So we have the primary and the secondary sources in it. And the primary sources here not only include the empirical data collected, but also the statutes, the laws which have been passed, which are enforced at the moment, the regulations, rules, regulations, orders, bylaws passed from time to time by the government of India. Or if you're writing something in an international law, what United Nations organization or International Court of Justice is talking about. Then we have the judicial opinion, that is the cases which are being passed by Supreme Court, High Court, or the International Court of Justice, although the decisions given by International Court of Justice are not mandatory to be followed. Then we have the Constitution of India, the administrative law, and the case reports. Case reports deals with all the statutory journals, be it All India Reporter, Criminal Law Journal, company cases. And then we have the secondary sources. Now here the secondary sources goes with the law review articles, various kind of articles being published in different kind of private journals or government journals also. Then we have the books, be it student book or the reference book. Then we have the official websites of the legal firms. Then we have legal encyclopedia dealing with the dictionary. It is basically the dictionary of legal language. And then we have the law firm websites, the different law firms which are posting something. This is the same thing I talked in the previous slide. Then we will come to this particular point. Before going to this, I would like to start with your title, first of all. The very first thing is to choose a title. So the question arises, what kind of title shall we go with? Obviously, the title will be based upon the kind of idea you develop in your mind, which in turn is based upon your literature review, which in turn is based upon the issue that popped up in your mind on which you wanted to write. Okay. So the very simple rule is that be very simple in your approach. Before writing the title, you should know one thing, that the title should be small. It should be in a very simple language. And it should be directional. This is very important. The title by itself should hit your abstract and your paper. The title by itself should tell that what exactly this particular writer is going to write about. Okay. This is the thing you have to do before choosing the title. That is, you should know your audience first. And if you don't know about it, ask this question to yourself before even starting to writing a paper, that what will be my targeted population? Because if it is student, your level should come up to the student. Your writing level should come up to the student. If they are academicians, then you should write according to an academic literary work. And if you're writing something for the judges or you're writing something for the advocates, then you have to use the legal terminology to a great extent. So your write-up, you should know your audience first before you even think of writing the title. Your title should also be something very simple. It should not be philosophical, or don't put some title as if you are a very intelligent person. It should be something which should be understandable by a person of reasonable prudence, reasonable intelligence. So please try to pick up a title which is very eye-catching, small, and directional. Second point is author's affiliation, which you give when you submit your research papers, and sometimes in maximum publication, they ask for the abstract first. So these are the things to be included in author's affiliation. That is the name of the author and the co-author. If in case you have a co-author, its designation, official designation, affiliation, address, official address, phone number, email ID, and the undertaking. There are many journals right now, especially the unpaid ones, which takes the undertaking, where you take this responsibility that this particular work has not been submitted anywhere for publication, first of all, and this is not a plagiarized work, and you take whole soul responsibility of it. So you have to keep this thing in mind, right? The next important part is the abstract of the research paper. See, what I suggest you is that please make it a habit to write your abstract and your introduction part at the end. Once you are finished with the main body of your research paper, then write your abstract and your introduction. Why so? Because abstract is like the mirror of your research paper. Your abstract should be such that by reading those 200 and 250 words, which is the minimum requirement of it, the reader should get complete picture of what exactly you are going to talk about, how you are going to do it in your paper, and what will be your conclusion like, and what will be the relevance of taking this paper for publication. So your abstract should be an answer to the question, why should we publish your article? So there are certain things which must be present in your abstract. The very first one is, your abstract should talk about the universe of study. What exactly generally is happening about it? See, there is one thing. Whenever we do research, it is always from extensive to intensive. That is, we start from the universe, and then it is just like moving within a tunnel. When you're standing outside the tunnel, it is all bright. And when you enter inside the tunnel, it starts becoming more cohesive. It starts becoming more concentrated. It starts becoming more directional. And when you reach the end of the tunnel, again, it becomes bright, that you release the scope of your studies, your research paper, for further issues and for further studies. So when this dark circle of your tunnel is going on, please make it sure it should be intensive. That is, it is the main task, it is the main body of your paper, right? So your abstract should talk about the universe of the study, first of all, what exactly generally is happening about it. Then it should talk about what specific issue you are facing of this universe of study. This is the second point to learn in this. Third is, how much research has been done in it so far. It should be between 200 and 250 words, and you will be able to attain it only when you have clarity of what exactly you have written in your main body of the paper. Then you should also talk about why you are selecting this topic, and what methodology you will be using for it, and how you will be collecting the data, and what will be the significance of this study. So when you have to write so much in just 200 to 250 words, I think you should write it after completing your paper. The second thing is, so these are the questions you should ask yourself every day when you write an abstract. What was done? Why did you do it? Why you want to do it? Why they did it? What did you find? And what are the findings? Why are the findings useful and important? Okay. So after keyword, the second most important part of the abstract is the keywords you use. So keywords are basically how it is written. It is written in italics, followed by the colon. And there are 2-3 words you write. The journal practice that I have seen is that people are in habit of writing only those words which they have mentioned in the abstract. But this is not the way you should write the keywords. You can write the keywords from any part of your research paper, but your keywords should be such that they should be directional. Your keywords by itself should be complete. These 3-5 words should be of such a nature that they give a complete picture of your article, that what exactly is going to take place in this article. For example, let's take an example. During the COVID time, cybercrimes against women and cybercrimes as a general increased to a great extent. So if somebody has this idea that they wanted, and from some newspaper and from reports, we find that the crimes against women increased at large. Okay. And this thing started circulating in your mind, and now some XYZ wants to write a paper on this. So there can be some kind of title. This is just an example, like mapping cybercrimes against women in India. This is a topic heading, a simple one. Mapping cybercrimes against women in India. And what can be the keywords for it? Your keyword should be such that it should give a complete picture of your article. That is, for example, cybercrimes you are going to talk about, women you are going to talk about, cyber laws you are going to talk about, and you are going to talk about information technology, right? In the similar manner, if somebody is, there is a news circulating, a current international news basically, that there is so much biopiracy of traditional knowledge which is happening right now. Like traditional knowledge, pirated, the heritage culture has been commercialized without the permission of the people who are actually responsible for generating it. So if somebody wants to write something on this as a research paper, in a research paper, the topic can be like a simple one: laws regulating traditional knowledge in India. That we are going to talk about what is happening in India related to traditional knowledge, how the laws are regulating it, a study. Okay, so what can be the keywords for it? Like indigenous knowledge, biopiracy, customary heritage rights, and folklore. This is just an example. You can this is just an example to tell you how you have to do it, right? Then this comes the introductory part. I am telling you again, write introduction at last, because introduction is like preface of your article, the main body. Usually the tendency is that unless and until somebody else is not writing on the same thing, or some reader is not interested in reading as a habit, people usually don't read articles. This is the truth. So how you will capture the person's attention? You can be capturing the person's attention if your introduction should have everything that is going to be explained in the article, so that he should develop a habit, or he should develop that desire to read the entire article. So your introduction should talk about the overview of the topic. It should talk about the literature review. It should also talk about why you picked up this topic. What is your rationale of selecting this particular theme? And then it should also talk about the method by which you are going to justify the question on which you are writing. How will you collect information regarding it? And what is your statement of problem? What is the problem there? And then an outline, overview of the entire thing that is going to be discussed in the research paper. So these things must be followed in the introduction, and it should be written like this, right? Now, there are certain tips to write an effective introduction in legal research paper writing, right? Introduction should be written in last, and try to be very concise. Use very simple language. Either it will be legal language in it, or it can be very simple English language. Don't try to put certain kind of legal maxims which a common person should not understand. Please keep it a point that when you're writing a paper, your target of writing a paper becomes successful when a person from the same stream also understands it. So keeping that in mind, you should write your paper. Then comes the body of the research paper. What is included? Obviously, it should be sectioned. If you can develop the habit of writing the subheadings, very good. Give subheadings also. It should be paragraphed, and these paragraphs should be synchronized. It should be like a flow. The idea should be related to each other step by step. It should not look like something abstract. And you should conclude the paragraph by some sentence which is related to your title. It does not mean that you should write after every paragraph, the conclusion of this paragraph is, no, it is not the way. But you should write something that is related to your title so that there should be justification to the title, what you are inquiring about. And the last part of this is the conclusion. Conclusions, make it a point. You cannot add something which you have not put in introduction in the conclusion. Some new information you cannot add. Now some experiment you cannot add. Whatever you have written, you have to conclude it summarily, writing about the main points, and then you have to give the suggestions regarding it. If it is doctrinal, if it is data analysis, what are the findings and what is the outcome? Okay. Now I have prepared an example of it, just for your knowledge. For example, this is the topic I have selected, mapping cyber crimes against women in India. This is the way the abstract is written. I started this abstract with some incident that took place in India in some year, so that I can capture the attention of the audience, right? And I'm also writing here in blues, I have indicated what kind of data method I'm using for collection and for data analysis. And I'm also writing the keywords here related to it, right? So in the same manner, when I'm writing the introductory part, here also I'm writing about this paper will try to highlight what and what kind of data methodology I'm using. And I have also written this, in this only I have concluded that finally the paper will, because it is a doctrinal study, I have mentioned it here, that the paper will provide with appropriate suggestions wherever necessary. So this is just an example. Then this is the way, this is what I have, this is basically the footnotes. This is the difference between the other papers in social sciences and law. Whenever in law we write a research paper, we need to put, we are answerable for every paragraph so as to avoid plagiarism. And every paragraph is given a number. If it is something written by your own ideas, you have not taken it from somebody, well and good, don't give any footnoting to it. But if it is taken from somewhere and you have just changed the languages and you have added something, if you have taken 5 lines from somewhere, try to put 10 lines from your side, then it is not plagiarized. Okay. So every paragraph has been given a footnoting right at the bottom of the page here. So this is the difference. We write the references also, and but for us, writing the footnotes is very much important, right? Next slide goes with, you can put this kind of synoptic views also. This is a chart I have made. So you can also put these kind of charts in your research papers. Like this is synoptic view. Synoptic means there is no footnoting for it because you have made it by yourself. Suppose you have read 10 books and now you want to conclude those books in a chart. So you can write these kind of synoptic views as well. And then you should have a conclusion and a suggestion. Alag, different, separate, so that a person can easily understand it. Then we have what are the advice of improving your writing. Any kind of, firstly to understand what kind of research you are carrying out. If it is going to be empirical, it will be exploratory. And if it is going to be doctrinal, it is explanatory of an already existed phenomena and what is happening at the moment and what will happen in future according to your suggestions, right? Try to write in linear fashion, directional, okay? Please interlink the paragraphs that you are writing. That is very much important. And try to write the legal research paper using the legal terminology also. Some legal words should be written in the paper so that it should be differentiated from other kind of papers. Then we have the avoid repetitions. Please don't repeat the words. Avoid complex sentences. And don't use very ambiguous kind of vocabulary inside your paper. Next is write direct sentences and don't write in passive voice. Please try to be writing in active voice and write the direct sentences in it. Thereafter, there are some post-writing tips as well. You should do proofread. Either you read it, reread it by yourself, edit it, re-edit it, or you give it to somebody else to read it. So that your flaws should be told by somebody, right? I have seen this tendency that once a person finishes with the paper, he gets exhausted, and then the only thing he want to do is to just send it for publication. So please don't do that, because it is not only the first time you have to send it, you have to keep your gates open for the second time also. So please make it a habit to read it again. Next is what is reference list? So when I'm talking about the reference list, you can follow any kind of pattern, be it MLA, be it APA, whatever referencing pattern you want to follow it, please follow it properly, and follow in a single paper. Don't mix it, first of all. And when you are writing about author's name, please put it in alphabetical manner. The surnames, depending upon the surnames, and try to put it in the alphabetical manner, right? Unless and until some special kind of way have been told by some kind of, because it can be MLA, AP, or Chicago, which are basically followed universally. So you should know about it, right? And the last thing you should remember always while writing a paper is be comprehensive, be concise, to the point, correlate the things, and there should be some creativity. That is, there should be some kind of findings related to it. The question arises, can we put quotations and phrases inside a legal research paper? Of course, yes, you can put it. If it is of a single line, put it within your paragraph you're writing. But if it is going to be something of 2-3 lines, then you should put them inside inverted commas. Like if you're writing some article and the article is more than 2, 3, 4 lines, put it inside the inverted commas. And even if there is a very big quotation or a phrase going on, and you want to put it in your own words, you can put it in your own words also. Give a proper footnote for it. But remember, you should not go out of the context of the quote. That is all about the legal research paper writing. Thank you for being so patient with me, and I'm very thankful to the Cape Cameron Trust also for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. And I'm also thankful to the coordinator, Dr. Shailja Vasuvedeva ma'am, for giving me this platform to share my views with you all. I'm open to questions. If anybody is having any kind of question, you are most welcome.
Doc, good afternoon from Ghana. My name is Ibrahim Haruna,
Hi,
medical
Ibrahim.
practitioner from Ghana. Yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you for your excellent presentation. Yeah, because I actually was looking out for your presentation, and luckily one of our participants suggested that you are on the page, and then you should. And it is very enlightening presentation. Very enlightening
Okay.
presentation. Yes, I have I'm currently working on a research article on
Okay.
ethical consideration. Yes, on ethical consideration. I have
Okay.
the title already. Yes, I need certain suggestions from you. I want to say the
Okay.
title to you and then get your suggestions from you.
Okay.
The title of the
Okay.
research article is International Law on Ethical Consideration, colon,
Okay.
the need for global blueprint to safeguard the ethical principles of researchers and the research community. Did you
Okay.
get it?
Yeah, I get it. You are writing about the ethical role of ethics in research paper writing, basically. You are want to do
Yes.
Okay. So what kind of suggestions you are
Exactly.
expecting from me? See, very first thing, you are involving law in it, or you are writing some paper in some other subjects? Tell me that first.
Okay, so
there are two ways to approach this paper. There are two ways to approach this paper. Either you can write a paper which is not including law in it, because once you include law in it, then you have to include your infringement laws in it. Okay. So when we talks about ethics, the ethics can be straightway related. Let me explain this concept to you, what exactly you want to do in it. Ethics straightway is related to what kind of ethics and morals a research paper writer should follow when he's writing a paper. So straightway you are hitting the plagiarism concept here. That these days, am I audible to you?
Yes, very audible.
Yes, okay. So straightway you are hitting the plagiarism concept here. And suppose if I am going to do research on this particular topic, my first approach will be to go through all the laws which are talking about infringement in copyrights. Right? Plagiarism is straightway related to your infringement of copyrights, patents and trademarks. Okay. So I will,
Okay.
if I'll be doing it from India, I cannot go straight away to international law. Firstly, I have to see all the domestic laws regulating this infringement policy as far as research paper writing is concerned. How plagiarism is regulated in India. Then I can carry out a comparative study with respect to what provisions of international law under which articles are talking about it. So this kind of study can be doctrinal. A very good doctrinal study can be there, because here I can see that you will be taking help from the already existing theoretical framework or research, right?
Yes.
Or
Yes,
you want to
please.
carry, you can carry out, yes, because if you carry out empirical research, then your population of study will be very large, because here if you are carrying out doctrinal research, it will be easy in the sense that you have to see, you have to collect the data related to it, which is already explained by and published by the researchers, and you have to see the primary source of data also, what presently the laws are saying, both in the domestic law as well as in international law, and then you should have to come to a conclusion what actually is happening based upon the already existing data, and then you will give your suggestions, what is required to be done, where are the flaws in the already existing laws, getting what is exactly required to be done. And if you want to carry out an empirical research on it, then if you are studying in a university, you can carry out this research with specific reference to university of the, take 3-4 universities, select your population. It can be random sampling. It can also be your convenient sampling, because you will not, that depends upon you what kind of study you want to carry out. If the population is small, then you take a systematic sampling. And if the population is very large, you can go with the random sampling. So carry out, make a questionnaire, float the questionnaire among the researchers, higher education system, and collect their opinions, what they are saying about it. Then write a chapter about what the existing law is, what is my report regarding it, what I have concluded from the data, and try to make the appropriate suggestions. So there can be both kind of studies can be carried out on this.
All right. Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
very much for your advice. Well taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes. My
Anyone
next question
else?
to you is no my
Okay.
my last question to you. My last question to you is that looking at your background and your study area, your rich knowledge in research and law, should there be a global blueprint on ethical consideration by the international research community to avoid bias in research, regardless of the cultural background of the researcher, to the
Okay.
area of research
Your
study?
problem
Thank you.
is you have this fear of what I get biased by somebody's literature review. That is it. This is your fear,
No,
actually.
the
That when we read
actually
some,
the
yesterday also I was listening to you, and you have this query that we are reading some literature and we get biased because somebody has written very effectively about it. Right? So how we'll write our original script regarding it? This is it?
yes, because sometimes your cultural background can influence the angle that you are taking your research angle to. You understand?
Okay.
Maybe
So here it
you
becomes
have a
very
particular
interesting.
yeah.
Here it becomes very interesting. What you can do in that, suppose if somebody is from tribal community and he's doing some kind of research, but if it is a legal research, then you must understand that you cannot go beyond the laws, right? You can have one chapter inside your research dealing with the, what is the biased opinion of the community regarding it, right? Usually in our country, it is like that wherever we are, we see that although some law is universal, for example, marriage. Let me give an example. In marriage, according to Hindu law, we can have only one marriage. But even in Hindus also, we have communities where cultural bias is so much that they can go for polyandry and polygamy also. So when some person from that community is talking about Hindu marriage, he can definitely have, because we in our laws only it is written that except this particular tribe, except this particular community. It is given in exceptions. It is recognized. But beside one marriage, polyandry and polygamy are also recognized in India. So in this way also, if you are doing some research and you have some very conspicuous cultural heritage related to it, and I'm quite sure that your law is also protecting it and recognizing it, you definitely can have one chapter on it inside your research. But you have to do legislative provisions, and in legislative provision, because law is meant for society at large, not a person specific. If it is a community specific, then with special reference to that particular community, you can carry out as research. Are you getting my point?
Yes, please.
Hindu marriage,
Thank you.
for example, Hindu marriage in India, a study with special reference to polyandry in the district Kinnaur. Suppose we have district Kinnaur and we have polyandry here. So I am giving a title, Hindu marriage, concept of Hindu marriage under the Indian legal system, a study, a critical study, basically, a critical study with special reference to the practice of polyandry in the district Kinnaur. You're getting my point? So I'm doing justification with both the things here. I'm writing about the legal system also, and I am also reflecting what actually is happening in this district with due regard to their cultural heritage. Okay?
Yes, one noted. Thank you very much.
All right. Anybody else? Any other queries?
Dear participants, any more questions for ma'am?
Well, I think
There will be any more
they
questions?
are exhausted also, and they are done also.
Well, will there be any more questions for ma'am? A query for queries.
Yeah, hello.
Here comes.
Yes.
Very good evening, madam.
Very good evening, sir.
I really appreciate the way you have explained everything. I was listening to the questions of other persons like Dr. Harun and some other, and you people brought in the discourse of culture in this whole discussion. So
Okay.
I had a question actually. When it comes to cultural discussion, ethics is a cultural part, and when we talk about ethics or ethics in research, we should also talk about ethical part of the research that have been done so far. In Indian context, we have seen that India is a country where history has been written by a particular class, or you can say that high caste men, and they have written it as if their Sanskrit stories, I mean scriptures, Vedic Puranas, their stories, they consider those stories as history, and they included Vedic and post-Vedic kind of periods in Indian history. So my question was, just like the earlier speaker also pointed it out, that sometimes class, caste, and religious bias impact greatly to the research. And somewhere research gets contaminated because of these factors, right? So my question was, do you think that there is a need of relook, or you may say rewriting of such a kind of cultural and social history of a country where it has been found that all the rights and all the privileges of reading and writing were in the hands of particular caste or class? Do you think so? There is such a need?
So, I will be answering this question from legal point of view, first of all, what I have understood from your question. In law also, these Vedas, pre-Vedic period, Muslim, British period, what was written at that time, what was the literary work, matters a lot. Because what we believe in legal system is that these are basically the cultures which became long time usages And these usages had so much power on them in it that they become the customs. And the customs once was practiced by the communities for since time immemorial, they become the law. So we cannot differentiate law from your historical scriptures, be it written by the higher class or by the lower class. We cannot distort it. There is no need to
No.
distort it. Yes, I am coming to that point. You want to relook it. You are stressing upon whether there is a necessity to relook in it. Yes, of course. And it is happening. Whatever amendments comes in the acts which are passed, they are basically related to the present society.
Yeah.
What was written when the constitution was made? Till date, more than 117 amendments have taken place in the Indian constitution. So what was written at that time is not relevant in the present scenario. So there is no need. It is happening in law. What is not efficient at the moment, it is not working. It is being amended and new things have been added. But if you are focusing on whether it was written by a high class or low class, that is not a point in law. We basically deal here with Vedas. Hindu law is derived from your Vedas. Shrutis and Samritis are the most important part of Indian legal system.
Not Indian legal system, actually Hindu or Brahminic legal system. I would like to correct you. Yes, you are very much right. When you are talking from the law point of view, legal point of view, you might be very much right. I was asking you actually from the cultural point of view. Okay, like even then.
Then still you have the freedom of expressing your expression. You can write it in your own manner also and get it published as a reference book. Why not?
Yeah,
It can be done.
I'm sorry. Ma'am, I'm sorry to interfere here. Well, I do understand how Vikasji is talking about how culture came into being, particularly with reference to writing scriptures and all by people belonging to higher state of society. I just would like to add here that many of these texts, if you take Ramayana, is written by Valmiki. Valmiki doesn't belong to a higher strata of society. Likewise, even Vedavyasa belonged to a very lower strata. He has created Vedas. He has created Vedas, but he doesn't
and still
belong
it is
to.
Followed. And still it is followed.
Yes, it is being followed. Yes. So here I just wanted to correct this, that most of the Hindu scriptures are written by people belonging to lower state of society, not written by Brahmins.
Sorry to interfere, but it was not my question. Which scriptures were written by high caste or low caste? It was not my question. My question was a little historical and history of culture. I wanted to say that. I was not saying that particular. I was not objecting about they were, who wrote those scriptures. I was saying that when such a sort of history is written, only on the basis of few stories that were available in Sanskrit, in Sanskrit language. History was written only by taking them as substantial evidences. Actually, there were
because Sanskrit has been a lingua franca of entire continent.
Let me complete, my dear sir.
Sir.
When such is the scenario that research, so-called research, I'm saying historical kind of research. Books have been written and only on the basis of few stories, Vedic or Puranic stories, which were available in Sanskrit. Such periods have been formed in history like Vedic and post-Vedic, though there is no substantial archaeological kind of evidence to corroborate that kind of finding. When there is such a sort of contamination in the research of history, I wanted to ask you, whether there is a need of relooking such a kind of, because it is an ethical
Why
question.
not? Of course,
Because
why
it is
not?
an ethical
If there is
question.
some
So
gap,
coming back to ethics, is it not
of
our
course, if
ethical
there is some
duty
gap,
to
if you find some gap there,
have a relook of such a kind of history, to come
you can do a
forward
research on this. Why not in a research on this?
forward with the news research, because there are now linguistic and archaeological kind of findings which deny the kind of history that is available in the history books.
Exactly. So that can be, this is a very good topic for research also, because the research which a person will carry out showing the gaps, where are the lackings with proper, of course, data should be there with you. So there will be, that will be an information you can submit to the state government or the central government, that what is actually happening and what is actually, these are the papers, these researches become the building blocks.
Okay.
That can be submitted
Yeah.
to the ministries also. Why not? Why not? If there is
Yeah.
some gap,
Yeah.
provided
Yeah, ma'am.
you should have some
Yeah,
substantial
please.
evidence behind it. Provided you should have some substantial evidence behind it, and there should be some very extensive research did, because this is not easy to start. What you are talking about right now, Mr. Vikas, is not easy to start. It cannot be
Yeah,
done by
ma'am.
just reading 10, 20, 200 papers.
I've been reading several books on this topic, and I
Yes,
have
you need to have extensive, because you
uh,
have to support what you are saying. And for that, you need very proper authenticated evidence for it.
yeah, of course. I know several such books and several researchers who are doing very good job in this particular area, and they are bringing out several new evidences which
That's quite interesting to me
which
as well.
expose
Good.
the kind of fake history that have been so far written. So thank you very much. It may be upsetting
you.
if my question was
No, it's informative. It is not upsetting. It's interesting. Thank you so much.
No. Thank you very much, Vikasji, and thank you, Shalini ma'am, to you too.
Thank you, sir.
My humble submission is this, that we are talking about ethics, but unfortunately we don't find anywhere wherever research is being carried out, for the simple reason that research means that you have suddenly you have come across something which nobody has known about that. But unfortunately here, what we are doing is that we are beating about the bush time and again on the same, which many people have already done. So if there is a real research, if there is a real
See,
yeah.
Sir, if you have not seen or read such kind of new research, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
See,
Right.
I would like to
right,
interrupt.
absolutely right, absolutely right, absolutely right.
I would
Absolutely
like to
right.
interrupt both of you here. I just, when started with my paper, I said that it is your brainchild. That is developed from ideas.
Okay. Thank you.
Right,
So if this
right.
idea has popped up in your
Right.
mind, give your brainchild a chance to grow. Do some
Yeah.
extensive literature research so that we can also read
Right.
someday that Mr. Vikas has found something which was really informative. I wish you all the best for your future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you very much, madam. And thank you for your beautiful talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Anybody
much.
else?
Thank you so much, Doctor. And thank you so much
Thank you,
to
sir.
the participants. Actually, as I said before, the last session was truly very lively. This is what a session is about. The conference is about, where we all get to share our whatever mega knowledge we have. And anyhow, sharing is caring. And I really appreciate all the participants who came along. And I suppose there would be, however, let me ask this. Will there be any more questions to a doctor?
I think we are
that's
done.
it.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Bose, for having me here. Once again, I'm thankful to
No,
be a
ma'am.
part of
Actually, I should say I should thank you. You know what? I used to read a lot of comic books since I was a kid. And Dr. Shalini, ma'am, seriously, there is no superhuman in Marvel or DC, because you are the savior of the day. You are the true Wonder Woman that we know
Thank you
of.
so very much, and wishing you all a very happy Navratra. So much positivity around. Have a great evening. Enjoy yourself. Thanks a lot.